Hey, everybody out there. This is Doug. I'm here to talk about the launch of Lone Wolf. So we're live and we're out there, and I've got a guest here with me. He's been helping me with the book. He's been doing letters and pretty much doing some editing for me. Go ahead and introduce yourself there, David.
Hi, yeah, David Berner. Usually put my name in full, David A.J. Berner, in most online things. Not sure why. I don't think there are any other David Berners out there that I know of. I've been doing the letters on Lone Wolf. It's purely self-taught, which I picked up. Well, picked up sounds very easy. Something I struggled to get to grips with about 15 years ago when I was doing my own graphic novel, which is available online and therefore predates all this wonderful Comicsgate stuff. And I thought, yeah, I see people like Doug trying to do this for the first time, and I'd lend a hand if I could.
And you've been a big help to me. It's been wild so far, and the team has just kind of fell into place. And it's been fantastic. I mean, I couldn't be doing all this without your help, and I really appreciate it.
I think that is both the big plus and the big negative of doing a comic is the collaborative aspect of it. It's so frustrating knowing that you have to rely on so many other people and nobody's timetables ever seem to coincide. But the support you give each other, if you've got a good team, that's the plus side. It's a big plus.
Yeah, as a kid, I never realized there were so many pieces. I never looked at the credits in the comics. I thought one guy drew it and maybe somebody colored it. I didn't realize there was a whole team of people doing these books. It's been a learning experience for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. You learn the hard way. When I did mine, when I did my graphic novel, let's say it was a long time ago now, but I had initially one artist in India, and he was doing everything. I wrote the script, I sent it to him, and he then did the penciling, the inking, the coloring, the lettering, and it was a huge project. It was about 240 odd pages in total, and I think it burnt him out by the end. He estimated it was going to take him about 2 years to do it, and after about 4 years, he was only halfway through. And he just, I can't do this anymore, David. I'm sorry, and I had to go and find another team. And so this time, I got a separate artist, a separate colorist, and I did the lettering myself. Brought it back to do the lettering myself, and that went a lot more smoothly. You need the team. You do. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm putting the whole book together pretty much, and I didn't realize how much work that was.
Mm.
I put together the ash can, and that was just like 6 pages. Well, you got to lay them out, and they have the templates, so you can line everything up. But just doing 6 pages was a lot of work,
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
and it's like I under I didn't estimate how much time was going to go into this, but it's been a lot of fun. I love working with people on creative projects.
Mm.
I'm a musician, so for years I've played music with other people. This has been easier than any band I've ever been in as far as collaborating, because the people that's come on board to help me have been fantastic. I mean, they're nothing but helpful. Nobody's trying to tear anybody down or show off. It's you
Just
can
wait till
tell.
some. Just wait till somebody brings in Yoko.
Oh yeah. But I mean, so far it's been great, and you can tell that everybody working on this book just loves comics, and then they want to create something great.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
Well,
guess I'll talk about the book for a minute.
go
Uh,
ahead.
Lone Wolf is about a 200-year-old Cherokee warrior. Um, he fights against supernatural evils like zombies and ghouls and vampires and werewolves. His powers were passed down through his grandfather. There was 5 tribes of Cherokees, and there was a secret group that protected the earth from monsters and evil. and his grandfather was the last, and he passed the power down to Wolf. So he doesn't really understand his powers. He doesn't really have a whole lot of guidance, but he does what he can, picking up things along the way and learning from people throughout his 200 years. So, you know, his story will take place in modern times. We might flash back to 200 years ago. We might flash back to the 1950s. You'll never know exactly where we're going to go with the story. There'll always be two arcs going on: what's going on in modern times and something that he remembers or flashes back to.
Is his grandfather still around? I mean, I know it's 200 years ago, but I mean, I got the impression from, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I got the impression from parts of the script that maybe he's still around as a kind of ghost presence.
Yeah, he's pretty much a force ghost.
Yeah.
um, you know, I have a lot of influences on this kind of thing. I always loved Wolverine, not so much as the superhero with the X-Men, but on his own, all the stuff, like, you know, a lot of his enemies are from his past, and they're old as well, and he doesn't know exactly what's going on with that. There's a little bit of that here. And then also I love the Phantom. And in the Phantom story, the mantle was passed down from generation to generation. And I wanted something like that, but here it's passed down, and I mean, it's a secret organization within the Cherokee Nation. So it was passed down, but where he's the last one, he doesn't get all the insight and the help. He's kind of left to his own devices. His grandfather's there as a ghost, but he can't communicate as well as he would like to. He kind of struggles with his powers because he doesn't know exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, I always think that's I've said this many times, and nobody ever agrees with me. But when we talk about superhero stories, I mean, one of the cliched criticisms that people often level is, if you look at the movies particularly, and you get the sequel, and the first line in the review or in the reviews is normally, well, now we've got all that boring origin story stuff out of the way, we can get. And I think, well, no, the origin story is, 9 times out of 10, it's the best story in a superhero's back catalogue. You know, this is the story of how they started as a normal person, got these powers, had to learn how to use them, had to learn what it was going to do to their life, how it was going to turn them upside down and reinvent themselves and come to terms with that. That is far more important than 15 stories down the line we've got generic baddie number 33 and we have to beat him. You know, it's a I love origin stories. I think coming up with the beginning of a story, the origin story is the best part of it.
Yeah, I agree. But with Wolf's origin, I kind of want to stretch it out. Like, you get the beginning here. Well, as the book continues, you'll see why Wolf is the way he is. There'll be other characters he interacts with, so that his origin, I mean, will stretch out for a while. So you're not going to get the whole origin story at one time. He's going to be a little bit of a mystery.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to just ask on the technical side. I know you said you were you just posted something on Facebook. Did you post something on Twitter as well about this?
Yeah, I shared this on Twitter.
So you've given all the shouts out that we need to. Good.
Yeah, I was a little rushed, but I think I've got it shared.
Good.
One thing about the campaign is I've tried to I wanted it to be accessible to everybody. I know a lot of people have been complaining about the $25 buy-ins, and I understand, because I've only been able to support, you know, a few books. There's a whole lot I really would like to get. But when you start paying $25 a book and then you add in shipping, and I'm not even international from these guys.
Yeah.
You know, I know, like, for you, it'd probably like tack on like $25-30 extra dollars.
Well, the first one, Jawbreakers, I think that was $25, and then it was another $20 just for the postage and shipping. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm.
So I wanted to make sure to do a $5 buy-in point where you got if you just wanted the digital copy, you get the digital copy, no shipping, no anything. And I decided that I would include the digital copy with every tier, with
Mm-hmm.
every perk, because I don't know, a lot of people, they might want to take the book and put it away, and
Mm.
then they can read it on a tablet or whatever. I just thought it would be neat, everybody would have a chance to get the PDF. That way,
Yeah,
if somebody like you didn't want to actually pay all that shipping, you could still get a copy.
yeah. No, it's good, and also, I mean, it's one of the things we touched briefly when I was speaking to Mindy yesterday on her live stream, and I mentioned that web comics and things like that, and I think there we never we never explored the issue, but somebody raised the issue of web comics, and the side of that we didn't really explore was that a lot of people now they do read online, and it's not just sitting on their laptop. It's like they're on the train and they've got their phone with them and they want to be able to read the comics that way. And I think giving away the PDF with the higher tiers is actually a good idea, because then they can have their nice pristine copy at home and still read when they're on the move. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't really like the digital comics myself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I read quite a bit because there's tons of stuff that when I was growing up, I just didn't have money to buy every comic
Mm-hmm.
book that I wanted. So I use like Comixology, and got to go back and read all the Spawn stuff I wanted, and things like that. So I understand, the digital has its place, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
old school and I still want the book in my hand.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to give people, that same experience.
Yeah, and I think again, I think we had this discussion, or somebody started this discussion in one of the Facebook groups. It's um, there's like three levels, if you like. You have the category of people that like to read digital, they like to read online, and as you say, I'm not really with that, but um, there is a whole generation of people out there, and that is their preferred way of reading it. And the only drawback, I think, up until fairly recently, has been that the format didn't really work for comics. It's like you have to sort of scroll across to the side and then scroll down again. So I think what we haven't really got to grips with yet, even on things like DC's platform, which is specifically designed for the web. And I think the Kindle now gives you the ability to zoom in on individual panels, but we haven't really got to the point where people have understood that if you are going to make comics to be read on a phone, you don't just adapt. You don't just get a PDF and let people read it that way, or a Kindle and read it that way. You have to actually rewrite the whole comic. I struggled with this for a while and I gave up on mine. But it has to be written for that medium, for that delivery mechanism. Otherwise, it's not going to work properly. And it's the same as, I guess, when you read the novelization of a movie or something, it's never the same. It's not the same as reading a novel. It's certainly not the same as watching the movie. And it always seems to be lacking something. And I think when you try and read a comic on a laptop or a PC, it's okay. But if you try and do it on something like a mobile, you can do it, but it's not ideal. You're putting an extra barrier in the way of the reader's enjoyment.
Yeah, it's kind of a hassle because you have to zoom
Mm.
in on pages, and
Mm.
there's a lot of text that even when I
Mm.
zoom in on it, I can't read it.
Yeah, and it's not just that. In fact, I tell you what, I think it would work quite well for. Um, and I'm not a manga reader, but I think when you think how many manga books tend to be just like one panel per page, and they're thick books, but they only have one panel per page. I mean, I think that could work quite well on a mobile device. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work for comics, partly because of the technical issues, but partly because, and I mean, you'll know this, when you're writing the script for a comic and the artist is preparing the layouts, you're thinking of the page as a whole, and the final panel on that page is supposed to deliver a little bit of a punchline, or leave a bit of a cliffhanger for the next page. And if you're zooming around all the time, you don't get that. You don't have that mechanism. And that's why I say I think if comics are going to become big on mobile devices, it won't be adaptations of standard format comics. It will be comics that are specifically written to be read on a mobile phone.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm.
I think what they would have to do is do you. It needs to really center around us every panel. There won't be like these big. You couldn't really do these big epic
Mm-mm.
spreads like they do. It'd have to be panel by panel, and it would have to be formatted to where you see that one giant panel and you can read it clearly, and then you click a button and it moves to the next
To the
panel.
next panel, yeah, yeah. And you can't, well, I mean, you can, because obviously you turn your phone and it'll change, but really it doesn't lend itself to different orientations either. Whereas in a standard comic book, you can have one panel which is portrait and the panel next to it can be landscape. But
Yeah,
you know, but you on a phone, although it's technically possible, it doesn't help the reading experience. You don't want to have to do that.
yeah, it just makes it weird.
Mm.
I've got an update on the campaign. We're already
Hmm.
1% funded. We've
Two
got two backers. We're up at
backers. Well,
yeah,
that's great. Do we
yeah.
have names? Do we have names?
Let's see. Let me see if I can find it. Like I said, I'm not very good at this yet. Let me go up here and look.
No. Have they left a comment? Is there anything on the comment section?
Yeah, I believe they might have left a comment. Yep, here we go. Our backers are now. I don't know how to say his name, and he has been awesome. He's in the Needle Movers Appreciation
Hmm.
Society, and he's a member of the Diversity in Comics page. And I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your name. It's Samula Oki. He has,
Oh, yes, he's a Finnish guy, isn't he? I think.
yeah,
Hmm.
he backed us for $45, which is awesome.
Wow,
And
awesome.
then Joey Turnage, who is a really cool guy. He wrote the Something Real comic
Hmm.
about the
Yep, yep.
boogeyman. He's backed us, so I appreciate that. That's awesome, guys.
So what does he get for $45? Why don't you say something about the tiers,
Let's
the
see.
perks?
Yeah, if we'll just go ahead and I'll screen share and we'll go through all the perks here.
Hmm.
Let me see. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep, yep.
Okay, we'll just go over the campaign real quick. So, right here, our featured perk is you get a T-shirt in issue 1, and it comes with the digital comic. It comes with the physical comic and a T-shirt, and apparently, that was claimed. So that's one of the perks that somebody has claimed. And then we've got the $5 perk, which is just a digital copy, and it's been claimed. And you can get the physical copy for $5. Of course, it's got shipping with it,
Hmm.
but you get the digital copy and the physical copy. And right here, we've got two copies of issue 1 for $10 plus shipping. And the thing about this is, you still get the digital copy with this. You get two issues, but I believe I've left the shipping on this is the same as buying one issue, because in the mailer that I can use, I can ship two books for nearly the same price.
Hmm.
So this right here, I think is pretty nice. Then here we go. We've got the Lone Wolf T-shirt. The little art here is well, it doesn't really get any bigger.
So
Uh,
you can get the T-shirt on its own without the book if you want.
yeah, but it still
Not that there's any reason why anybody would want to. Of course, they
yeah.
obviously want the book.
Well, yeah. Well, if you want the digital book, you can still get the T-shirt with the digital copy.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But the art there is Jeff did this piece of art just for this T-shirt, so
Mm.
that's the only way you're going to get. And that's one of my favorite pieces that he's done. I really love the look of it. And then we've got the stocking stuffer pack. You get 5 copies of issue 1 and the digital comic. So if you want one to read and one to put away, or you want to give a couple ways gifts, or let's say you've got a small comic shop and you just want to buy something neat, there you go. And we've got the stocking stuffer bundle. You get 5 copies of issue 1, you get the digital comic, and you get a t-shirt. And for $40, you get 2 comics and 2 t-shirts. And on all the t-shirts, you can choose the size that you want. It's got small, medium, large, extra large, extra large, and 3X. Because if you're like me, some of these guys is pretty good sized guys, and they need a bigger t-shirt.
If you were getting the pack with 2 t-shirts, could you order different sizes, or I don't know how the fulfillment works. Is that too much of a hassle?
Yeah, I believe you can order two different sizes the way I've got it set up.
Okay, good.
And then the $50 perk here, you get your name in the back of the book. I want to have a special page just dedicated to people that want, to say, hey, I helped this book out. I gave a little bit of extra money. You get the physical book, and you get the digital comic and your name in the back. And for $75, you get a piece of the artwork by Jeff. They're 8.5 by 11, which is a little bit smaller than usual, but the artwork is fantastic. These are the original black and white hand-drawn pages. It's not a print, but with that page, you get the digital comic and the physical. And there's only 22 of those because there's only 22 pages so far. For $100, you get your name on that tombstone right there. I just thought that was kind of neat, and if nobody takes that up, it's going to have my name on it. But you get your name right there. Plus, you get the digital comic and the physical. And for $150, you can own the cover art. And I think the cover art to this book is really cool.
The cover art will be the color version or the black and white original?
It'll be the black and white version.
Yeah.
Because Jeff colored it digitally, so you'll get the black and white. We might look into doing some prints, maybe, of the colored version if Jeff wants to. And that'll be something we add later on. But you get the cover and you get the digital and the physical copy of that. And that's all the perks there.
That's cool.
We'll go ahead and show a little bit of the artwork here.
Why don't you show the video?
Oh, well, we can show the video, but it won't have any sound if we.
Oh, okay. That's a good reason. Okay.
But we can look at some of the art here. Here's the cover by Jeff that he colored, and the logo by Ty. It used to be called the Bacon logo because it was red. In our test there, where we asked several people, they preferred the black, so we went with black. So now you don't get a pack of bacon when you order the book.
Well, that's a drawback.
Yeah. Now nobody will want it because there's no.
Yeah. We were only buying for the bacon.
And here's page 1. I really like Jeff's artwork. I think it's killer in black and white.
I do.
It's really cool. And here is page 3, I believe, with that creepy looking ghoul dude there. See, I've not met Jeff. For all we know, Jeff drew his face all in this. This could be Jeff.
You think he looks like a ghoul, yeah?
Well, I'm sorry, Jeff. And then we have, I believe this is page 5.
Now these pages you're showing now, I mean, these are black and white, but I think one of your very early stretch goals is possibly making these all colored as well. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Once we hit our first stretch goal, we'll do the book in color. This right here is one of my favorite pieces. This guy here, he is a not so nice guy. He's a bad guy. So we'll see him in the book. He's pretty mean. But here we're talking about we need $3,000 to make the book happen. We're not really making a huge profit at this point. We might make a little bit. This is getting everybody paid. This is paying David. This is paying Jeff. This is getting the book printed and shipped out.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm Comicsgate because I want my books to be free of anybody's political commentary and ideology. That's one of our big things. We want this to be escapist art. If you read it, if you're having a bad day and you just want something to read and enjoy, that's what we want. We don't want you to open the book and see a bunch of people protesting about things that's going on in the real world, because that just, that's not escapism. That's not what we want. Our first stretch goal here at $4,000 is that we color the book. And I'll go ahead and show these colored pages here. I think this in color is just absolutely killer. It just pops. It reminds me of like the old Hellboy stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's a good comparison. Mm-hmm.
And this here's one of my favorite. These are just a couple. I believe we've already got 5 or 6 pages colored.
Mm.
Our colorist is a little excited. And it's crazy. Like I was talking about things just falling in place.
Who is the colorist? Have you named him?
I haven't named him yet. I was going to wait and
Okay. Okay.
let him come on and introduce himself and talk about this. He's really excited. He's a really cool guy. But I really hope we hit that, because I think the book will be absolutely amazing with colors. And our next stretch goal after that, which I don't really want to get ahead of ourselves. As long as if we get the book funded, that's fine. That's all and good. But if we hit our next stretch goal here, if we hit $5,000, we'll increase the book 10 more pages.
Mm-hmm.
So for the $5 buy-in, you get 32 pages. Then here at $6,000, we go to 48 pages. We're offering the same page count at $6,000 as a lot of the $25 books at this point for $5.
Mm-hmm.
At 7, I'll have a bunch of stickers and little 1-inch pins made up like the punk rockers used to stick on everything. And, you'll get those for free. But at $8,000, which, this is a dream right here. It's a pipe dream, but
yeah,
I wanted to include it just in case. You never know. Somebody might just decide that they have too much money laying around and just give me $8,000.
it's not. I don't think it's too big a reach. I mean, a lot of well, I don't know a lot of, but some of the comics I've seen where people are doing their first time campaigns, they've been sort of 10, 15,000. It's doable.
Yeah, I think it is too. And I'm really going to push this thing.
Mm.
People are going to get tired of seeing me and hearing me. I'm going to be on the attack. I will put
And that's 10, 15,000. They're often not. You're talking what, 40, 50 pages here?
Yeah, at this point at $8,000, the book goes to a 60-page
Yeah,
square back
yeah.
full color book. There is no way you could pick this up for $5 anywhere.
Exactly. I think that's doable. I think we could do that. Or you could do that, I should say.
Well, hey, you're a team member, so.
Does that mean I pay double?
And like the more money we can pull in, the nicer the book will be. And then, I hope to keep this story and this character going for a while. This is just the beginning. You're going to get the beginning of the story, and if the book does well, I'm going to try to pass it around and submit it to a few publishers. This is a dream of mine. I never realized that I could be involved in making a comic book. It always seemed something like way out there,
Yeah.
And just to be at this stage, I'm really excited. I I don't have the words to tell you how excited I am. I could jump up and down and scream just that we've got 2 backers. I think that's amazing. I'm gonna refresh it and see if we've got any more.
Do that.
Look, we're still at 2, but I mean, we
Hmm.
just started, and I'm happy that we have 2.
Well, also most of the subscribers are obviously coming from the States, and it's early there.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm seeing here it's mid-afternoon, but a lot of these people they're barely sort of waking up, going to work. You're probably not going to see a rush of people until everybody gets home from work this evening, your time.
yeah, I agree. I kind of see this campaign being slowly but surely funded. Uh, I think once the word gets out there that we have such a low buy-in point, I,
Mm,
I know for 22 pages you can go buy a Marvel book, you can go buy a DC book, but we're trying to make something better than what you'll get. I mean, I know Iceman 1 is not a real big book right now. Nobody really wants to pay $3.99 and $4.99 for a book like that.
no.
You know, politics aside, it
Have you
doesn't
tried?
matter. Go ahead.
Have you tried insulting the backers? That seems to work for Marvel.
I thought about just posting it on a certain blue-haired trolls Twitter account. I know it's been working for Donald and Nasser. He was talking about they get a surge in campaign backers every time that she mentions the book.
Is that right?
People were asking him, they were like, "Will you please just block her, mute her?" And he's like, "No. Every time she mentions me, my sales go up." And I'm like, "Well, that's
She's the best salesman they've got.
yeah." I almost wonder if maybe she's undercover and she's
Yeah.
just secretly selling Comicsgate books, which is that's pretty funny. I actually have a prop here I wanted to show you.
Yeah, go.
Uh, Lone Wolf carries a pistol, and it's a pretty distinctive pistol. The
Hmm.
1851 Army or Navy. I've got the Navy version. The gun he
Wow.
carries is based off of this pistol. This is what the cowboys would have carried back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Originally, this style of pistol was black powder, so they had to load it, and then you'd have to like use that and push all the stuff down in there.
Uh,
This is a cartridge conversion. So what they did is they cut the cylinder and put this door here. I don't know if you can see this.
you need to lift it a little.
There's my camera.
There you go. That's it. That's it.
See, they cut that where you could load the cartridges into it. If you ever watched the movie The Outlaw Josie Wells with Clint Eastwood,
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah,
is the
yeah.
kind of gun he
That's the one.
carries.
Mhm.
But at the time, it wasn't a very powerful gun. It was kind of weak. I'll show you around here. I
Mhm.
live in American. I like guns. That's just me. Uh, this is a 38 long Colt. That's what that gun fires. Not a very powerful round.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't anything. It had what they call no knockdown power. So that wasn't a very popular handgun for the time. And I thought maybe that would point out a little bit in the book. If anybody knows anything about guns, it's not a very powerful gun, but this is the gun that he uses to kill
Mm.
monsters with. So, maybe it has some kind of significance, has some kind of power or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like guns, so I just wanted to show you
Yeah.
some.
No, that's cool. That is cool.
I made a video one time where I took it out and shot it, and I'm not a
Uh-huh.
cowboy, so I couldn't hit anything with it.
But luckily there were no ghouls.
That's right. Maybe I'll go pick up some Marvel books or something and make a video where I shoot them. Yellow flash and
Oh God, with his knife. Yeah. Well, that would bring out the SJW crowd for sure. He's shooting comics. He's a murderer.
that might be a bad idea. I don't know. It might work out great. I don't know. I haven't decided. I hate to spend the money though on buying one of those comics.
Yeah, so does everybody apparently. They're just looking at the sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I'm at, I don't have a local comic shop.
Hmm.
I can drive like 35 or 40 minutes east of here, and there's a comic shop, but their comic selection is very poor. They're mostly like a gaming store. They do Magic the Gathering and Warhammer or whatever. So
Yeah.
their collection of comic books isn't that great.
No, we have, well, I say in the UK, we don't have a particularly large network of LCSs anyway. I mean, if you have to live in a fairly reasonable sized town to have any kind of chance of a comic shop. I can think of one that I could probably get to, as you say, maybe about an hour's drive. But then the shop itself, it's the size of a broom cupboard. You know, it I suppose you could set up a pull list and get what you wanted, but you certainly couldn't just pop in and be sure of getting what you were going for. Really, I mean, I live about 40 miles outside London. And the only comic shop I would ever bother going to, or ever do bother going to, is if I'm going up to London for something else, then I'll make a special trip to a shop called Forbidden Planet. And that's like sort of supermarket sized, and you have one floor which is all the dolls and the figurines and the toys, and then downstairs they have the comics and the books and the games, and that is a really good shop. But I mean, there's a dearth of them over here. It's why I tend to, and why a lot of people in the UK, I think, far more likely to sort of wait for the trades rather than read the floppers. It's just because you know you're getting a complete run that way.
Yeah. Uh, I've been buying back issues for
Mhm.
years. I've been kind of, I thought the Comicsgate thing was kind of funny. And the only reason I found out about Comicsgate was because I was watching Star Wars videos that
Uh-huh.
EVS was doing.
Oh, you're one of those. You're one
Yeah,
that EBS brought in.
yeah. And
Yeah.
he started talking about Comicsgate, and he was making Cyberfrog, and I was like, I actually I would buy a comic book every now and then, but like I said, it's mostly back issues. If it was anything new, it was like when the death of Wolverine, I bought that,
Hmm.
and a while back I bought Venom #1. But other than that, I wouldn't really buy anything. And I wanted to see a review for Solo or something. I can't remember what it was because I hated The Last Jedi. I thought that was a terrible movie.
Hmm.
And I found EVS, and the man's personality just sold me on his videos.
Yep. Yep.
And I didn't even know he was a comic book artist at first. He started talking about, his channel name was Comic Artist Pro Secrets, but
Yeah.
I'm not very bright, I guess. I never put two and two together. And once he started talking about comic books, and he was, making his own and Comicsgate, I thought Comicsgate. So started looking around and, seeing everything going on. And I was like, yeah, I've agreed with these people before Comicsgate ever existed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I sort of dipped in and out of comics a couple of times. The last time or this time when I got brought back into it, dragged screaming back into it, it was not because of EVS and what he did, but because of what I saw happen to him. I stumbled across some time before, I don't know how or why, but I'd stumbled across Diversity in Comics' channel. And I was listening to him, and he was doing the reviews of comics. And even though I wasn't buying comics at the time, I started to think, well, this is good. This is a guy who's actually pointing out which ones are worth buying, which ones are not. His reviews they seem to be on point. They talk about the writing, they talk about the artwork, they tell us which ones are well done, where they fail. I mean, he doesn't do that so much now, but certainly at the beginning, he would explain a lot more about where the artwork was weak. And I was thinking, well, some of these artists, they ought to just listen to these videos. He's giving them a free tutorial here. It's
Exactly.
they really were good. And I started ordering trades based on his recommendations. And some of those are just starting to come through now. So I've just received yesterday, I got the trades for Damage and Silencer, which I would never have thought of buying otherwise. They're obviously new properties. They're not characters I'd ever heard of before because they didn't exist. I wouldn't have, if I'd seen them in a comic shop, I wouldn't have bought them. But I immediately went out and ordered the trades on those, and they say they're just starting to come through now. And The one thing I was skeptical about to start with was when he would talk about the industry and the pros and how everybody was frightened of each other and how they would be bullied. And I thought, well, that can't be right. I can understand how, if you're a Trump supporter, yeah, it's probably a bit uncomfortable at the moment, but can't believe you'd actually be hounded out of the industry and blacklisted and harassed by your own colleagues the way he's saying. And then I saw it happen to EVS live on Twitter. I mean, I was vaguely aware of EVS because of, I suppose, DNC must have mentioned him a few times. And then I saw, I think it was Dan Slott. In fact, I'm 99% sure it was Dan Slott on Twitter, out in the open, basically saying, you shouldn't be following this guy, Ethan. You know, he's going to be bad for your career. You should drop him. You know, following this DNC guy, it's not a good idea. And EVS stood his ground and basically, very politely but firmly, said, look, it's not your job to tell me who I can and can't follow, Dan. It's and that seemed to be the end of it. But they went back and forth about half a dozen times, and I thought, diversity in comics, he's blowing all this up out of proportion. It's not a big thing. As long as you stand your ground, it's fine. And I think the next day, or within a couple of days, the floodgates opened and they swarmed on Ethan, and I'd never seen anything like it. And then he shut down his Twitter. And of course, when he opened it up again, he left DC and started filling in the background of how this had been going on for months, maybe a year. And it was horrific. And that was really what pushed me from being somebody who was just watching from the sidelines. I don't want to get involved. I just want to know which comics are good. If there's toings and froings going on behind the scenes, it's nothing to do with me. It doesn't affect my life. Let them do their own thing. And I suddenly thought, this can't be allowed to continue. You know, I'd been frightened up till then, not frightened. I sort of thought, I'm not actually going to click follow or subscribe on any of these people because there is a chance of blowback from what these people are saying, and I don't need that for something I'm only interested in a passing way, even if it's unlikely to happen to sort of somebody like me anyway. It's just why take the risk? And I saw that, and I immediately went out and subscribed to all these different YouTube channels and followed everybody on Twitter. And I thought, no, you have to show support to these people. And if this is the only way I can do it, this very small little gesture, I'll do it, because this cannot be allowed to go on.
I agree.
But that was it. And to me, Comicsgate, there's obviously several strands to it, but to me, should we say the main thrust of it initially was the quality of the comics and the politics in the comics and getting Marvel back on track when it seemed that might have been possible at one point. That was less interesting to me. It was, you know, I can see they are making stupid business decisions, whether they're doing it for ideological reasons or just because they are particularly incompetent businessmen. That's nothing to do with me. If they want to burn their own industry to the ground, let them do it. I'll get my comics elsewhere. I've always been more of a DC man anyway. But the harassment of pros by pros and the harassment of fans by pros, that was what shocked me. That was the slant to it that really made me think, this is a cause you should actually speak up about if you can.
Yeah, I was very disappointed in a lot of people that I really loved, seeing the way they talked to fans, and it was just very minor criticism most of the time. Somebody would say, well, I didn't like this, you know, instead of taking that person's opinion and going, well, you know, I'm sorry you didn't like it, I'll try to do better or whatever, you know, just something polite.
Maybe you'll like the next issue, whatever.
Yeah, they just straight up attack people, and they're like, well, you're harassing me because you didn't like what I did. That's not the way the real world works. I'm a musician. I've had many people go, well, I didn't like that song you did. And I didn't go.
Well, I used to run. Let's say when I did my graphic novel, I serialized it for about three years on a webcomic hosting site, a couple of pages a week, and fortunately, touch wood, most of the feedback I got, I put up a page and everybody came back, or most people came back. So I really like this. This comic's shaping up really well. I love this. Are you going to get a print version out one day? I'd love to buy it. Occasionally, you'd get somebody come back and say, "Well, this is crap. Nothing happened on this page. Well, how much longer are we going to have to put up with these pages of dialogue before something happens?" Or they didn't say that, but they would come up with something they didn't like. And as a webcomic creator, you are so desperate for every single follower, every single subscriber. You are polite and you thank them for their feedback. And I thought, why is it so hard? If I'm doing that and I'm just putting it up there for free, why is it so hard for somebody who's doing this for a living, somebody who's being paid, to be polite? It's astonishing.
I don't know. It's weird. Like I'm not really surprised by all the newcomers because most people these days just they just look out for number one, their self, and
Mm,
they don't want to accept any kind of criticism. They think they're perfect. But the older pros is what really surprised me. The guys that's been around for
yeah,
20
yeah.
years or something, it's just like out of nowhere they decided, well, I don't care if I have fans or not. If it's just ridiculous.
Mm. And well, and I suppose that where that attitude originated, perhaps, is the fact that they have always been two steps removed from the fans. It's they're not being paid directly by the fans, and their employer is not getting paid by the fans. It's like the employer is being paid by the comic shops, and they're being paid by the publishing company. So in a way, if fans criticize them, they don't care because they can't see a direct impact on sales in the way that, as I say, as a webcomic creator, you knew that if you suddenly told all your fans to F off, the likelihood is your readership would go down to zero in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And they don't have that kind of direct connection with their readership, and so they're insulated from, or felt they were. But again, as you say, not only was it horrifying that some of these pros of 20 years standing, 20 plus years standing, were acting this way, it was the fact that the publishers themselves, that the Marvel and DC corporately and Image were taking no action either. And you thought, this is okay. If Bill Sienkiewicz wants to go out and blow a fuse and he's damaging his own name, people are not going to buy the next Bill Sienkiewicz book, and that's his right to do, if he wants to burn bridges. But he's also damaging Marvel's brand. He's damaging DC's brand. And, well, not him particularly, but obviously some of the creators are, that are still employed there or still on freelance contracts there. And you feel like, surely, as a corporate entity, you have to, at some stage, even if these people are only on freelance contracts, you have to start saying, look, you're not just damaging yourself here, you're damaging our brand, you're affecting our sales. You cannot go on like this. But no, they just seem to endorse it. They became complicit in it, right up to, very recently. Who was the top guy at Marvel that was, not the editor-in-chief, not Cebulski.
Joe Quesada, is that the one?
Joe Quesada, yeah. It obviously it's not just these lunatic newcomers to the industry at the bottom. And it's not even just the long-standing pros. It's everybody up to and including executive management. And you think, wow, this is beyond belief. This industry needs an enema, as the Joker would say. It's it is frightening.
Yeah, it's.
But it opens up opportunities for us guys, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I tell you what, he gets a lot of flack for being a kid. But one guy who really helped me and influenced me was Nasser.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing him just get his book out there, and I commented on one of his YouTube streams, and I said, "Hey, how did you get started? How did you find an artist?" And he sent me his Twitter handle, and I got on there and DM'd him, and he just started telling me how he done everything. And every
Mm-hmm.
time I've ever had a question, I can say, "Hey Nasser, help me with this," and he's like, "Okay,"
Mm-hmm.
and he's just that's the way everybody should be.
Yeah, yeah.
If we want these independent comics, I know in a way we're all competing with each other because we've all got a product to sell.
Mhm.
But the way you got to look at it is if my product does good and I help out this guy over here, then when his product's selling and he helps me out, we're helping each other in the long run.
I don't even know that we are competing with each other at this stage. I mean, there there may be a point down the line where we will be, and certainly. I know Ethan has said, you know, the money out there is virtually infinite, but you know, there is within any 1 month, if you've got, let's say you had Jawbreakers Volume 2 and Cyberfrog Volume 2 out at the same time, and Mitch was doing a Red Rooster Volume 2, there comes a point when people are going to say, I'm going to have to make a decision between some of these now. But at the same time, I think that the counter argument to that, and this is why I'm not completely negative on that, is you look at how much, as I say, I've never had a pull list and wouldn't want one particularly, especially after, you know, from what I've seen of the quality. The idea of pre-ordering something without knowing what it might look like is doesn't sound like a shrewd move from the mainstream comic press. But people, when people talk about, you know, I used to spend $100 a week or $100 a month on comics, and you suddenly think, actually, if they're going to stop buying from Marvel, if they're going to stop buying from DC and Image, that's 4 top-priced Indiegogo projects they can back.
Yeah,
you know, so it's. If it was new money, if it was saying, you know, they're going to carry on with their pull lists at Marvel, they're going to carry on with their pull lists at DC, they're going to keep buying the same number of mainstream comics they always did, and then find more money to put into Indiegogo projects, we would be in competition with each other then, much more so. But I think the way it's shaping up is, even though we're just like a gnat biting an elephant at the moment. I think our competitors are more DC and Marvel, funnily enough. I think we're not drawing money away from them. People who love those books are not going to come to us instead, but people who are already turning their backs on them, we are the next obvious place for them to put that money.
Yeah. One thing that I love about a lot of these Comicsgate books is you're seeing some guys doing throwbacks to the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
The 90s was when I was growing up, and that's the comic books I love. I was always a big fan of 90s like Ghost Rider and Spider-Man and Batman. So to kind of see that style and that era coming back, I think it's a big refresh to what's going on now.
Yeah, and I think again we have to bear in mind I've the pros out there, and we obviously when we use the word pro, we don't really mean professional. Sort of, we should call them unpros or something, because they are unprofessional. But one of their big criticisms has been, they are just throwbacks. They are just looking to recreate the 90s, and that's been done. Why would you want to do that? And I don't see it that way. I see it more as we want to recreate 90s quality. We don't want to tell the same stories. What we want is that level of quality. We still want to tell new stories in new ways with new characters, but there were quality controls then, which clearly aren't there at the moment, and that's what we want. That where the calling back to the 90s is. And if you want to be really esoteric about it, I mean, you could go right back to artistic movements like the pre-Raphaelites. I mean, they were condemned in their day for looking back to a previous era of art, and now they are, you know, one of the preeminent Victorian movements that people look to as having re-energized in art of their age.
Yeah, I've noticed there's a few books, like Alterna has one right now that's even doing like a throwback to like the 50s and 60s, where the books are just, they're aimed to kids and people who remember that kind of stuff. It's nothing but just fun, family fun. I think that's something that's really missing now. The crowd that's buying comics is guys like me in their 20s and 30s. It's not really based towards any younger kids, and I would like to work on a book at some point that was aimed towards children. You know, the big fun superheroes, the flashy colors, just ridiculous. Not something gritty and dirty like I'm working on now. But you know,
it's funny how the pendulum swings. As I say, when I last got back into comics, not this time around, but when I was doing my own graphic novel about 15 years ago, the debate then, or certainly in my head, I don't know to what extent that reflected what the debate that was going on in the wider comics world, but in my head, the debate was, can you actually tell a mature adult story, adult with a small a, can you tell a small adult story in a comic book format and still make it fun? And it was like, comics are for adults, they're not just for kids. And it was that
Yeah.
not just for kids, that it was the just. Um, and I tried, therefore I wrote this book, which was essentially, it was a superhero book, but it was very much based in the UK and had some UK themes in it. But what we seem to have lost in the interim or since then is that word just. It's like suddenly from they're not just for kids became they're not for kids. And now we've got to a stage where there is nothing out there for kids at all. It's like everything is, I mean, this, is it the Black Label Batman Damned or something?
Yeah.
It's like, I know that's at one end of extreme end of the spectrum, but how long before the rest of the mainstream goes that way? And the only people who seem to be making comics where the stories are simple enough for kids to appreciate them are these books by Marvels. But it's not because they are catering to the kids, it's because the writers are so poor that everything is simplified and boiled down, and so the themes in it are still not appropriate for kids, even though the level of storytelling is not appropriate to adults.
Yeah.
Mm.
You're exactly right on that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder when I read something modern, it's like, do they think I'm this dumb? Are they trying to dumb it down for me?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they this dumb? It's kind of hard to tell.
I you have to. I mean, we're not saying anything that hasn't been said on a dozen other videos and channels and things, but they're lecturing. They're not telling stories. They're lecturing. They're getting out their soapbox and saying, "We understand this. You perhaps either you haven't come across it before, or you weren't intelligent enough to understand it when it was explained to you before. So let us explain it to you in a comic book. This is what you should be thinking." What?
Yeah.
And yet you go back to your school days, or certainly my school days. From what I've heard, education is going down this indoctrination route as well now. But we were always told, that the purpose of education is not to tell you what to think, but to tell you how to think. And in a way, that's what the more mature comics, the Dark Knight Returns, the Watchmen, it's like, yes, they had messages in there, they had very deep themes in there, they had philosophy, they had and yes, they had their blood and guts and the occasional sex scene, but really you were free to take whatever message you wanted from that, and that's perfectly illustrated with Dark Knight Returns. I mean, ever since I discovered that, which wasn't when it was new, I discovered it about 10 years later. But and that was one of the things that dragged me back in. And at the time, everybody I spoke to about it, one of the things they loved about it was the way that it presented both sides of the political spectrum. For every major event that happened, every shooting, every bomb that went off, whatever, you'd have the television coverage and the people they would interview on the street. You'd have one guy giving the liberal point of view of, this is terrible, this is fascist, you shouldn't be allowed to go out and beat people up, and then they would cut to somebody else who'd be saying, I'm glad he's out there doing this, we need that kind of justice on the streets. And you had that balance. And the way you can tell that it's capable of interpretation is the way that in the modern climate, the number of people that now condemn it because all they can see is the right-wing message. It's like, oh, that shouldn't even be in there. You say, well, you do realize it's balanced by this left-wing message as well. No. It's clearly right-wing, because Batman's answer to everything is he just beats people up, and that's very fascistic. And I said, well, you can say that about every superhero. Ultimately, which superhero book or story doesn't have as its climax the hero beating somebody up?
I think one thing that they've lost is all these superheroes have a moral compass. It's not political. It's not.
No.
That's where they're failing with the modern Captain America. Captain America, he always followed his morals. He didn't follow political ideologies and stuff. He knew it was right. He knew,
Hmm.
they've been dropping the ball on that. They're making Captain America political, and that's not
What
who Captain America is.
I don't think they can see the difference. I think they are. I think they are obviously steeped in that ideology themselves. Whether it's Mark Wade or whoever, they believe that this identitarian politics is moral. And
Yeah,
so, so when they put these words into the mouths of their characters, they believe they are making them a moral character, and they can't see that actually, no, that's that doesn't work that way. That's not well. For if you're against it, you can argue it's not moral. But even if you were for it, you'd have to step back and say you can't enforce morality by immoral means. It's really it's that there's an empathy gap in a lot of these writers, I think.
well, I was listening to EVS the other day, and they were talking about people projecting themselves on these characters,
Hmm.
and that's exactly what's happened with Captain America and some of these other ones. When you write this character, especially a character like Captain America and Batman, and they're already established. What they believe and the way they feel and what they do is
Hmm.
already established. You shouldn't be trying to recreate and change all this stuff. You know, if you see something going on, you know exactly what Batman is going to do about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if he believes with the person politically. If it's wrong, it's wrong. A lot of these SJW types, they believe that their political stance is morally superior,
Mm.
and that's their moral compass. Is like, well, if you really was a moral person, you wouldn't support Trump, so you would be out punching Trump supporters because that's morally right.
Oh, yeah, the ends justify the means. It's a
Yeah.
frightening thing, which I can't think of any superhero that would ever have gone along with that philosophy at
No,
all.
but we're going to start seeing more and more of that. I'm pretty sure.
Mm. Mm. Well, unless the industry dies first, but yeah, I've said before, and it's I fear the industry is probably lost, but and therefore our battle now is not for the industry, but for the medium. It's like we can't save Marvel, we can't save DC, we can't save Image. They are too far gone. Certainly Marvel and Image. DC, I'm afraid, it looks very much like it's not totally lost yet, but it's heading that way. I think the indications are not good. Um, but the medium, the comics medium, at the moment finding its outlet through Comicsgate and Indiegogo. I mean, there is a lot of hope for that still. I think
Yeah.
the right people are making the right comics, and yeah, some of these comics are going to be political. They are, and they are going to raise difficult questions. I mean, the first few Jawbreakers, as we know, I mean, it was specifically designed to be apolitical and to appeal to the widest possible demographic it could. Because apart from anything else, ironically, it was obviously meant to help comic book shops, um, which is very sad given what's happened. But it was designed to be apolitical. Ethan has said many times that Cyberfrog is apolitical. I'm not entirely convinced yet. We'll wait and see that. But every time he talks about which side were you on when the swarm came or something, I thought, yeah, there's a message here. I think I see where you're going with this. Well, it'd be interesting to see how much of his recent experiences have bled into the book. But there will, as the movement develops, as we get a wider variety of books being made, there will be politics that creep into them. But hopefully, the lessons will have been learned that there is a way to do that. There is a way you do it and still tell a good story. There is, not every book is going to be a Watchmen or a DKR, but there's certainly scope out there for one to be.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, the more people coming into this, eventually we will have our Watchmen.
Mm.
I was listening. EVS had Chuck Dixon on the other night, and I would love for Chuck Dixon to come. Just to, he hasn't went full Comicsgate yet, has he?
Well, he's in an awkward position, I think, because of he's still got his relationship with Vox Day. So possibly just politically with a small p, it's best if he doesn't, for his own point of
Yeah.
view and from ours. He's there because Fox Day offered to pay him, and he needed work, and he took the money and wrote the script. And whether his script is right wing or apolitical, we don't know. But yeah, I think it would be hard for him to make that move and still have his connection with Fox Day.
Yeah. I would love to see him just go full Comicsgate though and work with
Uh,
somebody like
oh,
EVS.
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
I believe the team of
Well, he's
EVS.
writing. He's writing. Remember, for one of the Jawbreakers spin-offs for Zach.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. What is it,
Yeah,
Devil Dog? Is that what it
yeah,
is?
yeah. I think it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I loved Chuck Dixon until
Mhm.
I was always been a Batman fan,
Yeah,
and when I figured out that the Chuck Dixon that's working on these books is the Chuck Dixon that created Bane,
yeah.
I was just like, oh man, I love Chuck Dixon.
Mhm. But it was also. Did you not also find it quite sad to think that he was yet another one of these people that the industry had turned its back on?
Yeah, I mean, like
I was shocked.
such a talented writer,
Absolutely. Yeah,
and it's like they just kind of cast him to the wayside.
yeah.
Better
And
than anybody currently at DC, hands down. You know, it's
yeah, probably. I mean, certainly. I can't think of many. I did like. I think the one DC run that I've read that was recommended by England Teen of the I Love Comics site was the Aquaman run, Dan Abnett. That I really enjoyed. But I mean, as you say, whether it's up there with Chuck Dixon, I don't know. It's not fair to compare writers, perhaps. But that was very
that's
good.
true.
Yeah, but they do have certainly. I can't think of anybody at Marvel who's anywhere close.
We have somebody in our chat. It's his name is JMS, and he was asking. He says, "Who's on with you, Doug?" He's a smart dude, and it's not just because of that cool accent.
I suspect it probably is actually. It's the only thing I've got going for me, so I'm playing it up. Normally, I don't speak like this. I'm much more like Mim Headroom.
Well, I've tried to tone down my accent some today. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to play up the southern accent. Because I
Yeah,
realized in these streams, you're selling yourself along with your book. People need to connect with you and find you,
yeah.
a likable person. A lot of people tell me I'm a likable person, so I just try to be myself, not do the overblown Southern
Mm,
thing and yell and carry on.
yeah, talking as if you just stepped out of an episode of Dukes of Hazzard or something. Oh, are we still allowed to mention Dukes of Hazzard? Probably just not the car or something. It's
Yeah,
it's bizarre. Yeah, I again, you look at EVS, you look at Zach. I mean, there's a number of reasons why their books did so well, but a big part of it is because people like them. You know, that they are engaging, they are charismatic when they're online. People just connect. They think, yeah, we know these guys. These are guys we'd happily go and have a beer with. It's
yeah. Like
and
I was just gonna say, when Mike Miller started coming on streams, I was not familiar with Mike S. Miller's work,
mhm,
but when he started coming on and talking, he sold me on Lone Star just being Mike Miller.
yeah,
I was like, this guy, he's kind of straight. He's a straight shooter. He lets you know you don't have to agree with somebody to like him on everything. But just the way he was a straight shooter. He's a fun guy. He's a family guy. It drew me in wanting to check out his work just because of his personality.
yeah. I think for me again, the beginning of where I'd say that where I started aligning myself with Comicscape was when I saw the persecution that was going on, and therefore I had a similar experience, or rather an opposite experience with John Malin. It was like when I first started hearing him online, I found he was very blunt and very aggressive. I agreed with what he was saying, absolutely. And when he had the famous tweet incident about get it the right way round, when he said the SJWs were not Nazis, and for some reason that upset them. They obviously think they are. Um, but it was his approach, his attitude was very abrasive, and I thought, oh, I'm not sure how well this guy is going to do when he puts his book out, his own book, because he's going to turn a lot of people off. But again, the more you see him, the more you realize, well, that's just his way. It's just the way he talks. It's not meant to be confrontational. It's not meant to. And I've worked. Well, I won't tell you where I worked, but I worked for a German company for a while, and I had the same sort of experience there. So I'm not saying John is German, but I could see similarities in the way that Germans have this reputation, this sort of stereotype of being very aggressive and very superior and looking down their nose at people and being arrogant. And when you work with them every day, you realize this is just a German cultural norm. It's the way they speak. It's like they won't say, if they want you to do something, but as an English person, we apologize for everything, as you know. And so when I was at work, if I wanted somebody to get me something, get me a file from the cabinet over there, I'd say, hey, I'm sorry to bother you, but if you get a moment, would you mind getting me a file from the cabinet? And the German guy's likely to turn around and say, no, I'm very busy at the moment. Okay, let me rephrase that. I want you to go and get me the file for the cabinet now. Oh, okay. But it's just people have different ways of speaking, and I think, as I say, that initial impression I got of John, I realized no, he's not an unpleasant person. That's just his manner,
Yeah, he's from Michigan, so
Hmm?
I kind of picked that up in his accent.
Is that
So
normal for Michigan? Is that?
a lot of people from the northern part of the country are kind of that way, especially from
Uh-huh.
around that area. They're real direct, and I'm from the South, so
Mm-hmm.
you always hear about how polite people are in the South.
Yeah, yeah.
We would never be so direct unless you made us really mad. It really has to come out.
Oh, you do well in England then. It's you apologize before you ask, you apologize again at the end, and in the middle, if you can squeeze in one or two more apologies, all the better. But yeah, but that's exactly it. And so if you come from an area where that's the normal way of speaking to people, you're not being rude. That's just the way people speak to each other. But I did think, I say, when I first started listening to John, I thought, oh, this could put people's backs up the wrong way. He may not sort of gel with people the way that EVS has, the way that Zach has. Um, but of course, the more you're online, the more people get to know you and realize that no, you're not being rude. That's just the way you speak.
Yeah,
How are we doing? Any more backers?
we actually just got another backer,
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Lott, which is a regular.
Wow. He is.
Uh, he he supported us. We're up to 2% funded now.
That must have been big then. So we've gone from
Yeah,
1% to 2%. Yeah.
yeah. I just want to say thank you, Jeremy. It's appreciated. We hope to make all you guys happy with our book. And in our chat, Mr. Needle Mover Society himself is in here. Mr. Matthew, thanks for checking us out. He wanted to tell you hello, David.
Hello, Matt. We've been on air for about not quite an hour and a half. Do you want to reintroduce the book again, and in
Yeah,
case
sure,
anybody's just joined us?
sure. Hey, all you new joiners. We've had a couple of different viewers popping in and out. I've noticed. Lone Wolf is my book that I wrote. The art's by Jeff Lastly. It's being lettered by David, who's currently down here on the bottom of the screen. Uh, it's about a 200-year-old Cherokee warrior, and he fights supernatural evil. Uh, he was given a gift by his grandfather, and he doesn't quite understand the gift. As he travels his journey through time, we follow that and see how he became the man he is today. But our campaign, we're doing a $5 buy-in on our campaign. So at $5, I'll go ahead and screen share for a moment. Okay. Uh, and go over the perks real quick. For $5, well, we'll start at the top. $20, you get a shirt and issue one. Every perk includes the digital copy, the digital PDF. For $5, you get you get the PDF. For $5 plus shipping, you get the physical copy plus the PDF. For $10, you get 2 physical copies and the PDF. For $15, you get this shirt with this artwork here by Mr. Jeff Lashley. You get the T-shirt and the PDF. The stocking stuffer pack, that's almost like a tongue twister to me. You get 5 copies of issue 1 plus the PDF. The stocking stuffer bundle, you get the PDF, 5 issues, and a T-shirt. For $40, you get 2 physical copies, 2 T-shirts, and the PDF. For $50, you get your name in the back of the book on a special thank you page. You get the PDF and a copy of issue 1. For $75, you can get a page of the original artwork in black and white, plus you get the physical book and the PDF. For $100, you can get your name on this tombstone right here in page 4. There's only one of these out there, and if nobody gets it, it's mine. You also get the PDF and a physical copy. You can buy the cover art for $150. It is the original hand-drawn. It's not going to be a print. It's in black and white. You also get the physical copy and the PDF. I'll show you some artwork real quick here on our page. There's our backers. I want to say a big thank you to you 3 guys for jumping in the first hour. That's fantastic, and we appreciate it more than you'll ever know. But right here, here's the cover art. This was drawn and colored by Jeff. It's awesome. The logo was done by Ty C. White. He's a fantastic artist, and we appreciate him doing the art. Here's page 1. Here is page 3 with this gnarly looking ghoul here, who earlier I said that might be Jeff because I don't know what Jeff looks like. And then I apologized, and I'll apologize again. I'm sorry, Jeff. Here's page 5. You get to see one of these ghouls getting punched in the face. That's probably what my face is going to look like after I called Jeff a ghoul. We get to see the gun, which if you just now coming in, I will show you the gun again. The gun it's based off of. Here is one of our villains. He is a bad dude, and I'm not going to give away his name. I'm not going to tell anything about him. You just know he's bad. Look how mean he is. He's got that big old mustache and that goatee. But if we can hit our first stretch goal, we will have a colored book. And check out those colors. I will have our colorist on with us at some point, and I'll let him introduce himself and tell you why you need to support the book so he can get some work. This right here is one of my favorite pages he's colored so far. You get to see the ghoul guy getting blasted in the face. This book, we're going to try to keep it PG-13. I want it accessible. You know, some people might let their kids read it. That's up to you. That's none of my business. But, you know, I want to keep it PG-13. I want everybody to be accessible to it. And that's the book. That's the gist of the book.
So you won't be submitting it to Black Label then?
No, there's not going to be any wieners or anything.
Not even on the ghouls.
But I'll show the gun again if you guys want to see it. The gun is an 1851 Navy. His gun is based on this gun, so it's not loaded. A gun like this, I'll just go ahead and tell you a little bit about it. This is what they call a single action pistol. Back in the cowboy days, you couldn't just point a gun and pull the trigger. It doesn't do anything. A single action means you have to pull the hammer every time before you pull the trigger. So when you see the frame there and he's holding it and it's like this, what he's doing like the gunfighter thing where they would pull the trigger and then fan the hammer. That's why you see them doing that. They have to pull the
Mhm.
trigger. Just a little bit of cowboy history there for you.
Yeah, you should have been wearing your cowboy hat. You got the wrong hat.
Unfortunately, I don't have a cowboy hat.
Ah,
Here in Tennessee, they're not very cool. I guess there's
imposter.
not. I'm just a crazy old hillbilly. I guess I'm not a cowboy.
What else? So you went through the pages, you went through the perks. Do you want to tell us a bit more about the story?
Yeah, I'll give a little bit of the story away. I don't like
Not
talking
no
about.
no 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 not too much. Just as much as is
Yeah,
on the site. Yeah.
yeah. I'll read my little synopsis here for you.
Mm.
Lone Wolf is about a 200-year-old Cherokee warrior who fights against supernatural evil. Wolf's grandfather chose him to be the next protector, but the world around was changing around them. He is given a gift he doesn't understand and struggles to control. With his grandfather's guidance, he continues to fight against evil. So, as I said earlier, his grandfather he's Wolf is 200 years old, so his grandfather has been dead for a long time. But he communicates him. He's somewhat of a forest ghost, but I guess that's trademarked. So he's
The
a Native
ghost.
American spirit.
Uh,
I don't want Lucasfilm to come in here and get mad at me for stealing their
a
footage.
force spirit.
But yeah, the book is pretty much going to follow his origin, and one of the lines I had that I wrote in the campaign I thought was kind of cool, and it kind of defines what's going on. It's his past is far from dead and continues to shape his future. So like everything that's happened to him,
Hmm.
villains and stuff we see, as it goes on, he begins to understand all these evils can't just be blown away with a pistol, with a gun, that there's something more to this than just monsters.
Mm.
There's a supernatural evil out there that he has to fight, and he's got to learn how to fight
Mm.
it.
So he'll learn why these ghouls are everywhere that he's
Yeah,
fighting. Hmm.
he'll learn, where the ghouls are coming from. He'll learn uh, why his villain is the way he is. There's darker forces that we'll eventually get to.
Hmm. Cool. And you've got in the. I mean, I've only seen the script for part one, obviously, for the first 22 pages, issue one. But if you get your stretch goals met, you're saying this first book could be as many as 60 pages. Is that all written out?
It will be. I don't know if I'll go the full 60. I'm thinking
Hmm.
it will definitely, if we get that high, it will definitely be 48 to 50
Hmm.
pages of story.
Right.
But
Ah,
I've got a
and then filler and back
yeah.
information. Yeah.
I might have somebody write an introduction, or I might write one. And
Mhm.
I have a couple guys wanting to do some artwork, do their interpretation of the
Mhm.
character, and I thought it'd be neat to have some extras in there. And I've got some early sketches that Jeff done when he was doing character sketches. I was gonna include some of that stuff in the book and kind of
Mhm.
tell our little story about how it fell together.
A kind of director's commentary.
Yeah, like a behind
Yeah.
the scenes type
Mm.
deal.
Mm. Excellent. So let's
And
get that stretch goal.
yeah, I mean it'll be cool. It'll be square bound, so it'll fit on a
Mhm.
shelf. You won't just have to throw it in a box somewhere, which hopefully nobody does. Hopefully they love and appreciate it for many years to come.
Of course they will. Of course they will. Actually, I think every one of these early Indiegogo books are going to be treasured because because there's always the chance that if this does turn out to be the beginning of something big, these could all be worth something one day. From the most lavishly produced to the least. They are part of history. Well, they're already part of history. It's
Yeah,
yeah, and by definition, and unless they do actually get into shops one day, by definition, they're all going to be limited edition.
yeah. I got my copy of Stardust from Nasser yesterday, and just the quality of the book, like the covers and the inside, the paper quality,
Mhm.
is fantastic. Which makes me feel good because I'm using the same printer that he's using.
Excellent. Hmm.
Because like I was saying earlier, he's helped me a lot, and he was showing me places where I could get it printed and stuff, and just getting that book and seeing the quality and holding it in my hands, it made me, feel really good about it.
Mm.
Uh,
Is that a US printer?
yeah, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
good thing is it's print on demand, so
Hmm.
I can print a bunch of these books, and the next go around, if book two, issue two, however this works out, uh, I can always print more of those books and include it as a tier
Hmm.
with the next Indiegogo.
Great.
Man, we've been talking it's been an hour and a half now,
It
right?
has. It has. Yeah. I'm going to take a break in a minute. I kept thinking you said, is it C. Ty White or Ty C. White who might be coming
Yeah,
on? The guy who designed the logo. It's.
he was supposed to. I sent him a DM,
Mm.
but being a third shift guy, he might have fell asleep. I understand that. At my job, they try to have these meetings during the middle of the day. They're like, "Oh, we have a meeting today at 11 o'clock," and I get off at 7. If I come
Yeah.
home and I sit down for a few minutes, usually I'll fall asleep. So I
Yeah.
haven't been to a
Yeah.
meeting all year. So I kind of understand that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and take a break too.
Hmm.
It's been awesome having you on, and I appreciate everything that you've done so far.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a blast working with you. You've been a big help, and you'll never know how much I appreciate you.
Thanks, Doug. Let's carry on, get the book finished.
We will, and everybody out there, I hope y'all have a great day, and I
Yes.
will I will be back on around noon. So you might just see me blabbering by myself, but I'll be here.
I'll see you later.
See ya.
Cheers, Doug.